Fantasy fanfiction. Foundation. Start with American comics. Exposure and Advent. Chapter 11. You can't judge good or bad by appearance. Nick Fury just wanted to open his mouth to express his point of view. Next moment, Braised Dan's expression froze in place, and he was in a bad mood. Exposure. Statue of SCP-173, the original work. Open black lens bracket hazard class, Euclid close black lens bracket. Have life, and are aggressive, and will break their necks when people are not prepared. Only when the eyes are fixed on it, it will maintain a static state and remain motionless. Open black lens bracket don't blink when you stare at me, you must never look away, otherwise, I'll break your head, close black lens bracket. Etc. Who can tell him? What does this no blink mean? Could it be? What he said is taking advantage of people's unpreparedness, is it the time gap in the blink of an eye? Thinking of this kind of horrifying puppet statue rushing towards him to lock his throat and bend his neck, Nick Fury couldn't help shivering. Not just dangerous, but this horrifying picture, originally is a kind of visual damage. Look at the scary dolls on the screen, and compare them with the panacea that previously cured the disease. Nick Fury's expression stiffened even more. Why is this treasure still killing people? And die in the blink of an eye? This treatment is too bad, right? Nick Fury, who originally equated the contained objects with special treasures, felt that his worldview had collapsed. Having lost the panacea, he was still trying his best to win it back. Mirror space. Can't look away. If you move it, you will be killed. Modu frowned. Although he successfully obtained a panacea, he still instinctively didn't believe it when he saw this description. It was obviously just a statue of common, which was scary at best. It's not magic. Modu shook his head, but out of prudence, he decided to only squat in the mirror space. No matter how weird, it's also impossible to cross into the mirror and attack him, right? Isn't the description of this thing too outrageous? Isn't this too metaphysical? Keep your eyes still when you look at it. Tony shook his head. Science told him that metaphysics was not credible. However, the body recovered after taking the panacea, and the health data can't fool anyone, so Tony can only be skeptical. But to say how much he was terrified of the statue would be bullshit. Anyway, it's just a concrete statue, and Tony, the scientific researcher, can see through the construction material at a glance. The appearance is quite scary. But concrete defines its essence. No matter how weird it is, a cannonball doesn't have to be too strong. The palm cannon mounted on his battle armor can easily bomb the concrete into pieces, and the sculptures are blown to pieces. What's the use of twisting his neck so weirdly? Caliber is justice. Cannon is truth. Tony, who is in the late stage of fire phobia, is a loyal believer of the turret religion. It's a bit too contemptuous of science to use this sculpture to scare people. Tony shook his head helplessly. The panacea saved his life. For the Foundation, no matter what he said, Tony was absolutely grateful in his heart. In spite of what was exposed this time seems a bit too common. It really doesn't match the Foundation's overbearing declaration, or to say, out of character. Just when Tony shook his head secretly, the picture displayed on the screen changed again, and Tony's eyes widened by rebroadcasting the content. Asshole. You dare. Tony roared angrily, clenched his fists tightly, and the veins in his arms exploded. The puppet that was alone in the corner of the room suddenly disappeared. The screen changed, came directly to a crowded street. No, it should be said that the streets were once densely populated. The road that should have been full of traffic was filled with flowing blood everywhere, clearing out a vacuum. On the ground, there lay a large body with broken spines. At a cursory glance, I can't even estimate the number clearly, and it's because of the time problem. It's a time when there are few people. In the corner of the street, a puppet with a strange shape stared straight at the screen. SCP-173. Original work. Tick, tick. The scarlet blood dripped from its hands and gathered on the ground to form a pool of blood. There was a figure lying down next to it. There was no sign of struggle on the surface of the corpse, only the horror on the face. Eccentric. Weird. Thriller. But in Tony's eyes, there is only anger. I will get rid of you. In the name of Tony Stark. Endless anger made him rage. JARVIS. Turn on the search system, I want to lock his location as soon as possible. Seeing the tragic death of innocent civilians, Tony seemed to have something awakening in his heart. Is that the Empire? General Ross's pupils shrunk, and he recognized the Empire's style from the scattered signs on the street. But, trapped in prison, he obviously has no chance to get out. That's right. He was accused of a military crime because he tried to use a sub-nuclear bomb in a downtown area, and he was almost brought to a military court. It's a pity that it's only 1/3. Ross gritted his teeth bitterly. 1/3 is still a panacea in the form of powder. It is not difficult for the military to keep him safe, but want to get out without damage. Then it is not so easy. Blame those mutants. Ross slapped the wall angrily. Logan. Chin-Nu looked at the tragedy in the picture, her eyes felt a little unbearable. Rest assured, we're almost there. Wolverine's deep voice soothed her heart. The rebroadcasting of the images on the screen caused countless people and forces to be moved by the wind. The bloody killing made countless people frown. The horror of the original. Tell everyone with bloody facts, the containment is definitely not a joke. Brooklyn. Outside the downtown area, in a remote alley. Creak. After an extremely fast break and cornering. After opening the car door, a man wearing a 3-color star-striped tights stepped out. His exaggerated chest muscles and buttocks were very eye-catching. The shield in his hand was his personal logo. Yeah, looks like a great guy. In the shadows in the alleyway, there was a light whistle, and Loki with a crown of horns walked out slowly. Who are you? Steve looked wary. He is now here to solve the disaster, and Loki suddenly appeared in the dark, which instantly aroused Steve's vigilance. Human. Loki had a wicked smile on his lips. You should ask me what kind of god I am. God. Steve frowned, not waiting for him to speak. Crunch. Another group of screeching brakes sounded. Captain, you don't need to talk so much nonsense with him, as long as anyone who stops us is an enemy. Black Widow's face was cold. There were never many evil villains in this city. There is nothing scarier than a horror puppet than a human heart. Unevenness means that some people want to expand the situation and plunge the belly of the Federation into chaos. Ho ho. Looks like I came just in time. The air roared, and Tony, who was driving the armor, fell from the sky. In the seemingly frivolous voice, there was endless anger hidden. His eyes seemed to breathe fire, and he desperately wanted to find that weird puppet and kill it, smashing it into particles. There are so many people found. Nick Fury, who secretly remotely controlled the SHIELD operation, looked a bit ugly. He thought he was making a fortune by muffled voice, but in the end, so many people discovered the location. The scene surrounded by wolves made him look gloomy. He has not forgotten, the mage who can cast teleportation magic. In all likelihood, they are spying in the dark. Staring at the front, it is both danger and opportunity. If it can be suppressed and something useful can be analyzed, it can also turn waste into treasure. Nick Fury, who has calmed down, has returned to the state of the king of agents. Thriller. Cruel. Fear. Could it be more powerful than a nuclear bomb? As long as there are weapons that can be used, even nuclear bombs are being manufactured continuously. This disadvantage and so on can be completely ignored in the face of weird characteristics. Be sure to get him. Nick Fury's pupils shrank, and a brilliance flashed across his face. In the previous panacea, they had already lost their initiative, and this time they must not fall behind again. No. You have to make the first move. The sight of a pack of wolves waiting around and staring at tigers made Nick Fury a little uneasy. The panacea is shattering in the middle of a dispute. The medicine powder can at least have some medicinal effect, but if the puppet is broken into residue, who knows if it will still be effective. Hold it in your hand before everyone discovers it, so as to prevent it from being destroyed in a chaotic battle. Nick Fury decisively pressed SHIELD's internal communication and directly contacted Natasha Romanoff. Before everyone else, bring back the doll. The first containment is damaged, and the second must not repeat the same mistakes. Braised eggs directly placed the highest order. This is a race against the clock. With the agent's sense of smell, the stewed egg was discovered very early. However, someone is faster than him. A black shadow rushed out from the alleyway, and the others realized that there was someone else on stage. Wolverine, Logan, Phil Coulson, next to SHIELD's car, frowned and spoke. As expected of a famous, good old man, he will help you answer your doubts in minutes. Logan sprinted into the membrane at full speed. Extremely fast. The 100-meter flying man Bolt was directly reduced to scum at the speed of Wolverine. The people on the field have not yet reacted. Wolverine, who was running extremely fast, had already broken through the blockade of these people, and was only a short distance away from the alleyway, where SCP-173 was located. Stop him. The horror figures must be contained by us. You can't break out a big battle inside, you must block it and keep it outside. It's the mutant again. Outside the alleyway, harsh noises erupted. In order to avoid the tragedy of smashing the third panacea from happening again, all the people present chose to break out the battle outside and fight directly. It was clearly the scene where the contained objects descended, but they intensified it into an internal battle. Asshole. Tony is completely desperate for these. Politicians, civilians are at stake, and these people are still fighting for their interests. It's ridiculous. An angry Tony tried to break through the blockade, but he, who made a high-profile announcement of his Iron Man identity, was obviously taken as a target on the court, and his every move received great attention. SHIELD might have been better, but the piano girl, Hefung girl, and the weird guy who called himself God were all watching his actions, and Tony was stumped. Pocket space. Lin Shu, who was also paying attention to the live broadcast, had a somewhat helpless expression. Containment is exposed. These guys are not working together, fighting the threat, trying to suppress the containment. On the contrary, what the hell is it to fight directly? This is not the birth of the ruins, and various forces are vying for prehistoric treasures. Please, this is a script for anomalous invasion. Etc. Could it be that they misunderstood something? As if thinking of something, the expression on Lin Shu's face became even weirder. Don't they think that SCP-173 is weak, something that can be dealt with casually? Be cool. This year's class of migrant workers doesn't feel good. Lin Shu's eyelids twitched. If this group of guys keep messing around, there might be trouble. SCP-173. Another name is Little Peanut. It can be said to be the mascot of the Foundation. But, don't look at this thing, even has a nickname, but it's definitely not a good person. Hazard level. Euclid is quite dangerous. Second only to Keter, it is extremely dangerous, also known as the world-destroying level. Under normal circumstances, the EU level is already the one with the highest risk factor, and Peanut can't help but be afraid of Keter-level abnormalities like the indestructible lizard. He is definitely the top of the top. When he didn't find his weakness and thought of a way to target it, he regarded it as a trophy and wanted to keep it in his pocket. Lin Shu could only say that he admired their bravery, and then sent an extra bouquet of chrysanthemums on Qingming Festival. Go away. Wolverine Logan roared, and the adamantium popped out of his hand, turning into indestructible claws. Relying on the ability of super speed regeneration, he rushed forward directly bearing the damage. Taking a step forward, passing the corner of the alleyway, I finally saw SCP-173 standing in the middle of the bloody mess. Go to hell. Wolverine waved his claws angrily. He had already reached the limit of his patience with this bloodthirsty monster. Then play GG. Click. There was a snapping sound from the neck. Neck twist. At a speed undetectable to the naked eye, the black shadow flew past and directly broke his neck. Wolverine, who broke in first, was also the first to fall down. It's just like rush to death. Click, click, click. The sound of bones recovering sounded, and Wolverine, who stood up from the dead body, used her strength to back off. On the stern face, fearful eyes appeared. That thing is weird. Wolverine's face was gloomy, the sharp claws in his hand were made of Edelman metal, and there was no scar on the opponent's body. Its material is by no means as simple as concrete. Chin. Wolverine instinctively protected Chin Nu. However, this is obviously just the beginning. Just because he can resist the neck breaking of the horror puppet, it doesn't mean that others have this strength. Brush, brush, brush. At a speed that cannot be detected by the naked eye, only black shadows can be seen darting. Kaba, kaba. The same sound kept ringing out. It sounded like just joint cracking, but a fallen figure was proving with his life that these were bloody deaths time and time again. The creepy sound made everyone feel chills. Fire. Fire. Full fire. The shield agent is firing guns and guns. Although it is not as good as the military, it can pull out all kinds of heavy weapons, but as a violent organization that protects the Earth, it definitely has a lot of guns. Several light and heavy machine guns were set up from the car, and the muzzles of the guns continued to emit blue fire. Pity. Nothing. What spooky figures were, and are still, after the metal torrent swept away. Not to mention the hollow bullet holes, not even the traces of bumps. If it wasn't for the wall behind it being destroyed by the impact of bullets, the agents would even wonder if they were dreaming. Kaba. Kaba. Even if the machine gun bullets poured out, Gatling burst into blue flames, and it didn't affect the speed at which it twisted its neck to kill. One figure after another fell in a pool of blood. The body can't see the slightest struggling movement, and the face is full of endless horror. What's the situation. Even Nick Fury, who is very deep in the city, is starting to lose his temper. Compared with the last panacea, this ghost sculpture is too scary, right? Not only killing people, but killing them so viciously. Even with full light firepower, he couldn't suppress his actions, and he killed people under the hail of bullets. In less than a moment, more than a dozen agents died, and they were all the elite of S.H.I.E.L.D. It took countless time and money to cultivate each one successfully. The loss in the blink of an eye made Marinate's heart bleed. If he doesn't control that guy again, Luden feels that all the wealth he has accumulated with great difficulty will be thrown into it. Sight. Keep your eyes on her. As long as she is seen by the line of sight, she will not move, and she must not blink. Nick Fury yells through the pager. Regardless of whether it is useful or not, this is the only way they can do it. Now, Port can only pray that the exposed content is useful, not just a random hoax. Still, obviously, none of the elites present are idiots. Someone soon thought of the content of the exposure and started to try. Stare. Stare. He stared blankly at the horror doll, not even daring to blink. Finally. Efficient. Phil Coulson had surprise on his face. Stop. Hawkeye finally breathed a sigh of relief from his fearful mood. Under the scorching eyes, the horror puppet that was watched by everyone finally stopped from the shadow of the high-speed movement, and changed into the original horror and frightening appearance. Looking at this kind of thing makes people feel chills in the bottom of their hearts. It looks like a dead thing. But it makes people feel terrified. Don't be too happy. That rascal. It hasn't been resolved yet. Tony's cold voice sounded. Wearing a battle suit, he was undoubtedly the most embarrassing one on the field. Who knows if the sight through Iron Man's armor is of any use to this guy? A solution must be found as soon as possible. Although he temporarily controlled the other party, it was obviously meaningless. It is impossible for the situation to remain deadlocked like this, and it is impossible for people not to blink. Once he couldn't help but blink before this guy was dealt with, the matter would be really serious. The evil beast would come out of the cage, and with its terrifying speed, it could simply slaughter a city. Tick, tick, cold sweat rolled down his forehead. It hit the ground and turned into a drop of water. Time passed quietly, and the eyes of everyone who forcibly opened their eyes were bloodshot. How could it be like this? There really are monsters that kill people in the blink of an eye. Hiss. Isn't this really a movie? It's too outrageous. Movie. How many people died on that street? What kind of movie dares to use this to set up a real scene? Just kidding. So what? Is there no one who can deal with it? I live in Brooklyn. Iron Man. Iron Man has shot. Jarvis. Lock its limbs for me. Tony kept going in the dark, and if this dragged on, sooner or later someone would be unable to hold on. It's better to try it while the other person is still. Shells. Use the strongest shells. The characteristics are neck-bending and super high speed. Tony intends to smash the opponent's two methods first, blowing off its limbs first, and then all the fear stems from the lack of firepower. Fire. Flames gushed out from the armor, and Tony directly took out most of the energy to launch the strongest attack of the armor. Rumble. Deafening bangs erupted on the field, and dust and smoke surged. Did it work? Nick Fury frowned tightly. As expected of the strongest arms dealer, Tony's few attacks just now were all at the top level of individual soldiers. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. has no funds and no technical equipment. Big dog plus scientist, the compound reaction is to hang. Success. It's not that simple. Wolverine frowned. Adamantium couldn't break through the defenses. He didn't quite believe that such a weird thing could be terminated so easily. The dust and smoke dissipated. Among the wreckage of the gunpowder, you can see that the horror doll has been blown into several pieces. However, before they could breathe a sigh of relief, what they saw in front of them shocked everyone. It was true that the spooky puppet had been blown off, but it didn't calm down like Tony thought it would. Instead become even more terrifying. Hand, foot, the torso, all turned into neck-bending weapons. Turning into a black shadow, with an incomparably distorted posture, he suddenly attacked everyone on the field, directly increasing the killing efficiency several times. Even Wolverine, who relied on her resilience to pervertedly resist it, was a little bit unable to hold on. Attack frequency. It is too high. Moreover, it is extremely difficult to stare at so many remnants at the same time. It is simply hell. The game is broken. Tony's nails were clenched into his fists as he rode the Iron Man armor. Is this the level of danger at the Euclid level? Odin on the throne frowned. If it is relatively easy to deal with at the beginning, the common people can temporarily save their lives by realizing eye contact. After being shattered, the strength of the horror doll has undoubtedly risen several steps. And it is foreseeable that head-to-head confrontation will only turn the opponent into more fragments, and thus become stronger in killing. It's a bit troublesome. Odin pursed his lips. Even he, the God King, would find it difficult. But what to do with him? He's just an old man about to go to his grave. Ancient One, what are you going to do? The faint voice echoed in the golden hall and gradually disappeared. What's the situation? Modu, who was hiding in the mirror space, shrank his pupils, his eyes filled with fear. Staring closely at the dust and smoke, a black shadow continued to enlarge, as if galloping towards him. But I'm obviously in the mirror space. With the presence of the old god, Modu panicked instantly. This feeling was no less than sitting on the sofa watching a horror movie, only to turn around and Sadako crawled out of the TV to die. Who can stand this? What the hell, get out of here. Mordo looked terrified. Pulling out the electric spark in his hand, the magic turns into a weapon and prepares to meet the enemy. Result. Click it. The crooked voice is unpretentious. Modu's corpse fell out of the mirror space and landed on the scarlet blood on the ground. There were piles of corpses piled up beside it. There were fewer and fewer people standing on the battlefield, and it was about to be completely wiped out. Stop. Enough. A majestic voice sounded. The flame vortex expanded on the ground and turned into a portal as tall as a person. The extraordinary figure in the yellow Taoist uniform walked out slowly. His calm eyes seemed to see through everything. Supreme Mage. Ancient One. What a strong evil. Ancient One frowned. She survived by absorbing the power of the dark dimension, and she was able to perceive in SCP-173, which seemed to seal an unimaginable horror and a horrifying appearance. It is not so much a scaring method as some kind of powerful seal. It was this terrifying power that alarmed her, who was carefully observing the timeline. Fall back. The extraordinary figure of Ancient One appeared, and he made a big move as soon as he appeared on the stage. He urged the Eye of Agamotto in front of him with all his strength. Amidst the green light, the metal that encloses the jewel begins to unfurl. Boom! The mighty power of time spreads, and the destroyed buildings around are visible to the naked eye. Click it. Modu, who was killed by the broken neck, was pulled back abruptly by Ancient One under the reverse flow of time and space. Exalted Mage. Modu's odd voice sounded from behind. But Ancient One obviously didn't want to pay attention to him. After restoring the broken little peanut to its complete form, she still wanted to continue to move forward in time. However, didn't wait for Ancient One to start operating. Boom! An indescribable horror suddenly rose from my heart, and I couldn't stop my heart palpitations. Give people a hand. Clatter. The power of time gem stagnates, and the countercurrent time instantly returns to normal. Restoring the horror puppet to its original state was already the limit of what she could do. If she stepped back further, it seemed that there was some indescribable horror that was about to come out of the seal. Ancient One even saw ripples on the long river of time, and the horrors that resided upstream and downstream looked over. Zilla. Eye of Agamotto paused momentarily. At least it's not useless. Putting away the eye of Agamotto, Ancient One's back was dripping with cold sweat. Seeing the rescued Motu and the restored horror doll, he reluctantly nodded. Exalted Mage. After seeing Ancient One appearing on the stage, Loki jumped out instantly. When the horror dolls were on a killing spree just now, he relied on illusions to send people's heads for death, so he managed to escape in embarrassment. With the appearance of Ancient One, I can finally relax. This is a terrifying boss as powerful as his father Odin, in charge of Time Gem, and even the dimensional demon Shendu is not afraid. The Protoss of Asgard, the sons of the god King Odin. For local powerhouses, Ancient One is definitely very familiar. With Time Gem, looking at the combat power of level Godfather, she is considered a top group, and she doesn't love anyone at all. Exalted Mage. Asgard Protoss. Son of Odin. What are these things? Nick Fury scowled. Unknown existences appear one after another, making him, the SHIELD director who feels himself in control of the Earth, feel very unhappy, even a little depressed. Isn't the world guarded by their shield? Are these messy organizations actually real? Is he really a god? The look on Nick Fury's face was indescribable. If someone came to tell him that there are gods in the world, with his personality, he would definitely be thrown to the agency bureau, and after interrogation, he would be thrown to a mental hospital for recuperation. But, now, the one who said this was a mage. A supreme mage who can control and manipulate time. Countercurrent. Nick Fury couldn't stop showing fear in his eyes. Although he has seen Yuan Devourer and knows the Kree people, he still holds a communication to summon Captain Marvel in his hand. But, it's too outrageous to go back in time or something. World. It's completely different from what he knows. Hiss. Supreme Mage. That's so cool. The magic is so cool. Coach, I want to learn this. You said, with the help of Supreme Mage, can everything be solved? Nonsense. Isn't that for sure? This is the power to manipulate time, it's just a scary sculpture. Turn back time as the Ancient One makes its strong debut. The panicked remarks on the internet finally calmed down. The power of time, obviously gave them huge amounts of confidence. Countless people were elated, thinking that the crisis was just like this, and passed away slowly amidst teasing. However, the Ancient One on the screen frowned. Not that simple. There was a bit of fear on the unpredictable face. Under the seemingly concrete exterior, Ancient One could sense some kind of terrifying power in the opponent's body, and her high control over Time Gem made her feel the warning from the long river of time. Pure killing and destruction is absolutely not acceptable, it will only release more terrifying monsters. So, seal. All kinds of magic formed a torrent and fell on the horror doll, and the intertwined magic brilliance covered its body. However, when the gaze is not realized. Click it. The crunching sound resounded again. Ancient One reversed the time expressionlessly, pulling back to before the seal. Click it. Puppet broken neck kill. Ancient One manipulates time reversal. I don't know how many times I have tried similar plots. White magic seal. Magic item seal. Mirror space seal. Otherworld magic exile. Dimensional force suppression. All kinds of control methods. Ancient One borrowed the power of Time Gem, almost used them all over. Result. Nothing. The puppet with a horrifying expression stood in the corner of the wall, with dirty blood flowing at its feet. As if mocking Ancient One's meaningless actions. 2. Supreme Mage. Loki's expression was rare and a bit stiff, a powerhouse comparable to his father's. Would he have nothing to do with this horror doll? Ancient One shook his head, but did not reply. Looking solemnly in front of her, it looks like a messed up paint dish, mixed with a large amount of tomato sauce and smeared. The appearance looks extremely scary. The evil GU who is used to seeing is definitely not afraid. What she cares about is the strange power of the other party. Open black lens bracket. Don't blink when you stare at me, you must never look away, otherwise, I'll break your head. Close black lens bracket. Sure enough, you can only watch it with your eyes to stop it from moving. The expression on Ancient One's face was a bit serious. The experiments of reverse time and space just now seemed to confirm this point. If you want to seal this guy with magic, supernatural powers, or other means, it is completely impossible. Temporary control, you can use your sight to make the opponent stand still. But, how to ensure normality? There will always be someone who can't help but blink, and once there is a mistake, it will be a killing feast. And, the opponent is very strange, suspected to be some kind of high-dimensional power projection. Even Ancient One is unwilling to take this kind of time bomb back to Kamar Taj for suppression. They are already strong enough to face the pressure of the different dimension Mephisto. Just when Ancient One had a solemn expression, the people who were watching the broadcast on the screen immediately turned against Yingtian. It's over. It's over. Even the supreme mage who manipulates time can't suppress it, we are hopeless. How is it possible? Just a statue, how can it be so strong? Humans, it is impossible to deal with this kind of power. Quote. The atmosphere on the internet is changing day by day, and he is completely in despair. Shit. What the hell is that? Is it the only way to let it go like this? Nick Fury couldn't help but swear. If it can't be permanently sealed, this thing is simply a time bomb. It sounds like you can keep still as long as you look at it, but people are not machines. No matter how many people there are, there will be mistakes. Once they break through the blockade, they will face a bloody massacre. The seemingly innocuous sculpture, but the actual harm is frightening. Let me describe it as a nuclear bomb that will be detonated at any time, and it will explode countless times. Boom! Nick Fury smashed the table angrily. Staring at the screen, his expression was extremely gloomy, just when he was a little desperate. The live broadcast on the screen made his eyes freeze. What is that? A new force has appeared. Buzz. Buzz. The roar of the helicopter sounded in the sky. The ear-shattering sound waves can be heard several streets away, and an organized helicopter appears from among the clouds. Military. What's the use of military people coming out now? Are they sure about each other? Are you kidding? The supreme mage who manipulates time can't do anything about it. What's the use of those big soldiers? Keep your eyes open, you blind men. Foundation. That's the foundation. A stone stirs up 1,000 waves. In the network full of bad-mouthing, a bold and red barrage suddenly burst out. On the broadcast screen, there is a mark imprinted on the helicopter, a double circle with 3 arrows pointing at each other, exactly the same as the foundation mark that appeared in the exposure screen. Without waiting for the others to react, 2 teams of people walked out of the helicopter that landed on the ground in a uniform order. Tread. The footsteps sounded at the same time, and the actions were completely consistent, more exaggerated than guards of honor, almost like a person. No, they are one person. There was a bit of horror in Tony's eyes. The dozens of people who appeared all had the same appearance, and it was impossible for multiple births to have such a number. So, clone. Does this level of cloning technology exist on Earth? Tony's eyes are a little horrified. This is completely different from the scientific world he knows. Neat and neat. The regulations are complete. Nick Fury looked gloomy. He had doubts about the authenticity of the foundation before, but now he is almost sure. From the clothes worn by these personnel, to their uniform actions, and the display of various details, it undoubtedly shows that behind the other party is definitely a highly unified organization. The grass team is not so perfect. Absolutely not the super ability of some mutants. Orderly system inheritance, it can be seen that the other side has been rooted in the world for a long time. When Nick Fury came back to his senses, the first thing he did was to smash the computer of the Ministry of Information, and he turned into a devil and roared, "Is your head stuffed in your ass? Such a huge organization, but you can't find any information. Fire me all." On the screen, open black lens bracket SCP-173 containment plan close black lens bracket. Hey, brother. Tony in the battle suit opened his mouth, before he could open his mouth. The expressionless Foundation member had already walked over, with no emotion on his cold face. Stare straight at SCP-173, as if it is the only one in sight. In the process of approaching, as if it has been practiced countless times, the movements are very skillful. The 2 teams gathered together and kept at least 2 people's eyes on SCP-173. Only after communicating through the headset would someone blink. Highly repetitive actions, like a robot bionic. Contain. Members wearing Foundation work uniforms. Advance in an orderly manner, and soon arrived in front of the horror doll. There was no fear at all of its horrifying appearance, and there was no mood swings on its cold expression. Then, Chi-Chi reached out. Lift the scary sculpture up and move it in the direction of the helicopter. The puppet, which was originally a killer, unexpectedly remained motionless in this situation, as calm as a wooden sculpture. All go. Is this the suppression? The Foundation is too overwhelmed, so many superheroes can't handle it, they can solve it so easily. Oh, my God, are you sure this isn't an ad for a moving company? This efficiency is amazing. Is this an organization that protects human beings? I love it. I love it. Walk in the dark, work in the light, it's so cool. Quote. The appearance of the Foundation made everyone stare nervously at the screen, expecting how this terrifying doll would be resolved, but the scene before them made countless people stare wide-eyed. Thriller dolls. SCP-173. Even Supreme Mage, who manipulates time, can't do anything with it, but the Foundation's attack is so swift and resolute. It's as simple as a moving company. In front of these people, the horrifying puppet that was dismissed fiercely just now is as well behaved as Little Peanut. It's outrageous. Foundation. Professor X, who has been watching and occupying, whispers softly. With a somewhat unpredictable expression on his face. The terrifying strength, even if it is only showing the tip of the iceberg, against the background of those terrifying contained objects, it is like an unimaginable colossus. In this situation, what should Mutant do? What a strange breath of life. Odin frowned, with a serious expression on his face. The life fields of those D-level personnel that appeared on the field were very strange. Rather than saying they were clones, it was more like 1,000 people sharing one soul, with some exceptions for higher-level Secret Service personnel. But no matter what, it's a pretty weird life. On these people, did not feel the passage of time. Could it be? This Foundation also has containment that controls time, and even life. Odin's expression tightened, and there was anticipation in his eyes. As an outsider, he didn't care about Midgard's mutation. After watching it as a TV series, he finally became serious. Asshole. What are the precautions and early warnings for? There was anger from the top military officials, and there was a bit of panic in their voices. The Foundation's fighter jets actually broke through layers of blockades and vigilance, and appeared directly over Brooklyn. This scene scared many politicians and high-level officials. People from the Foundation are leaving soon, do we need to dispatch troops to intercept them? The colonel pointed to the screen and opened his mouth tentatively, despite the scolding. Quote. The field was dumb. All the people around looked at him with idiot expressions on their faces. Intercept. Joke. Not to mention whether it can be stopped. Even if it is stopped, what about the horror doll? Let it stay on the block. This is simply a nuclear bomb that detonates from time to time. If you don't see Supreme Mage, you don't want to worry about it. The high level wished that they would go faster and never come back. Intercept. Courting death. Rumble. A mechanical roar sounded. The landing helicopter started again, and the orderly D-class personnel had completed the containment task. Going back to the fighter plane and turning back. Wolverine yinning, just when she was about to snatch it, the projection of Professor X suddenly appeared in her mind, and she paused, allowing the D-class personnel to pass smoothly. Interesting organization. Loki pretended to be indifferent, but the fear in his eyes betrayed his thoughts. Rubbing his fingertips, he just wanted to test it out with illusion. The voice of Ancient One Extraordinary sounded at just the right time. This is not a place for pranks. The deep eyes are not only looking at Loki, but directly looking around the audience. If it's just a horror doll originally, with the character of Ancient One, it will definitely not do unnecessary things. But she has already clearly felt that there is a terrifying existence faintly sealed inside the doll, which may cause the horror of the end of the world. Ancient One definitely will not let this kind of thing leak out. In her eyes, the Foundation can take the initiative to contain it, which is the best result. She herself has been entangled in various dimensions, and she is a little physically and mentally exhausted. She is eager to find an heir to take over the bag. Definitely will not add another burden to Kamar Taj and put an indeterminate nuclear bomb on her. Or, after trying countless methods and finding that it could not be completely suppressed, Ancient One gave up on this contained object. It is the best result for the Foundation to leave with it. That's all. Under Ancient One's shot control, the departure of the D-class personnel was unexpectedly smooth, and they easily boarded the fighter jet and disappeared into the night sky. Exalted Mage, are we just going to let that Foundation act like this? The revived Modu looked at Ancient One with a puzzled expression. In his heart, Ancient One was omnipotent. Ancient One shook his head and said nothing. He just raised his hand to open the portal and walked in with Modu. What she didn't tell Mordo was that when those Foundation members left, she had already quietly used Eye of Agamotto, trying to glimpse the future in them. Just a glance from the corner of the eye made Ancient One's back soaked in cold sweat. Mechanical, indescribable machinery, covering the sky, as if covering the universe. Even scarier than the supreme being she had ever seen. Ancient One actually helped me. Lin Shu raised his head unexpectedly. He originally planned that if someone organizes it, he will directly sell his points and exchange them for a wave of powerful attacks. With strong means, it crushed the enemies from all sides, and played up the aura of the Foundation in one fell swoop. He pulled out the exchange list. Unexpectedly, Ancient One would stand up and help him suppress the situation. Did she see something? Lin Shu frowned. He wouldn't be too big to think that the Ancient One, whom he had never met before, had a crush on him and was a die-hard fan of the Foundation, and 9 times out of 10 it was the Ancient One who controlled the time gem and saw some kind of terrifying future. Hope she doesn't overturn. The corners of Lin Shu's mouth were slightly raised, revealing a smile. In the Foundation's containment, some terrifying existences were even more terrifying than the conceptual god kings and creator gods. If Ancient One hits their hands, things will be a big deal. The Foundation is not without an almighty being beyond the concept. It can be called the unimaginable Xeon. We still have to return to reality. Lin Shu shook his head. These are not things he can covet at this stage. Compared with these unattainable existences, the containment reward this time is the key point. Open black lens bracket ding. SCP-173 contained successfully. Close black lens bracket. Rewards are being distributed. Close black lens bracket. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a controllable version of SCP-173. Controllable. Lin Shu blinked. Almost at the moment when the D-class personnel arrived, a prompt sounded in the ear. A fluctuating wave that seems to be absent spreads. There was a ray of brilliance rippling on the scary and hideous sculpture. If you really want to talk about changes, Little Peanut hasn't changed much, but the feeling of horror has disappeared a lot in Lin Shu's eyes. Lin Shu felt that he could easily control Peanut and let it change at will, including aggressive and neck-bending targets. Become a true Foundation mascot. Open black lens bracket SCP-173 sculpture, original work close black lens bracket. Must keep watching consistently. When the realization leaves, bend the neck of the super high-speed movement. Close black lens bracket. The holder Lin Shu can control it in its normal state, and open the seal to make the high-dimensional projection descend. Close black lens bracket. Note: after the high-dimensional projection comes, SCP-173 will be out of control, please use it carefully. Close black lens bracket. It's a big killer. Looking at the information in the system, Lin Shu thought of some rumors circulating in the Foundation. Little Peanut is just a shell sculpture, and the power above K level is sealed inside, which is extremely terrifying. This is why SCP-682 is afraid of him. Unfortunately, the second state is uncontrollable. Lin Shu shook his head. After the high-level projection comes, it is definitely an XK-class catastrophe. If you play Bang, it is easy to take more than half of the Earth into it. Definitely have to be more cautious. Let's contain it first. Lin Shu instructed the D-class personnel under him. Just in case, he still chose the way in the Foundation. Lock Peanut in a locked room. Open black lens bracket ding. Containment of SCP-173 complete. Is it starting to draw the third contained item for exposure and coming? Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket whether close black lens bracket. Lin Shu, who is familiar with the road, ticked it directly. After turning around for a while, a name that was both familiar and unfamiliar appeared in the field of vision. It's actually it. Lin Shu frowned, his face a bit ugly. He didn't know whether to say he was lucky or unlucky to draw this contained object so quickly. System. Can I choose where the containment falls? The host can only choose the delivery interval, not the specific location. Close black lens bracket. The light curtain unfolded. The miniature phantom of the Earth unfolded in front of Lin Shu, and the cursor was dotted, covering a city at every turn. Is it based on the city? Lin Shu blinked, understood in seconds, skipped the ancient country on the other side of the ocean, and went down a little in the land of Yingzhong. Free America, shootouts every day. Yingzhong is so powerful, he will definitely be able to withstand it. Lin Shu randomly clicked on the screen and locked his target on the hinterland of Yingzhong. Anyway, he is in the pocket space, which is equivalent to another dimension, and if he really loses control, it will not harm him. Lin Shu said he was fearless. Shield. Asshole. Waste. So much money approved every year, what are you doing with it? Nick Fury gasped wildly. Is it easy for him to get funds from those old foxes in the Security Council every day? As a result, his subordinates actually raised a bunch of tax thieves, and the huge foundation organization couldn't find any information. In the report uploaded by the Intelligence Department, not even a trace of cobweb was found. This is a large organization. The material consumption caused by people eating horse chews is not rare, let alone those advanced technological machinery. Such a large organization, it is impossible to exist in a different space, so many mechanical equipment can't just appear out of thin air, right? These idiots actually told him that there was no trace. The stewed egg was about to faint. At least. More than 500. Nick Fury stared at the words on the document, his face extremely heavy. SCP-500. If it is coded normally, there will be at least 499 before this, and I don't know how many there will be in the future. Such a terrifying existence, they SHIELD actually don't know anything about it. Nick Fury felt his eyes go black just thinking about it. Director, we may have new problems. The beautiful secretary next to her took a deep breath, pointed at the light curtain outside, with love and hate on her face. The new exposure has started again. What? So fast? Nick Fury's face darkened. Before Natasha Romanoff and the others had time to come back, the pictures on the screen began to update again. This speed, it's simply numbing. According to the previous two precedents, these so-called contained things are all extremely powerful things, either weird or miraculous, and they are absolutely cherished in terms of value. But how often is the screen refreshed so high? Nick Fury was surprised by the details of the glimpse. And what will happen this time? The power of the contained object fascinates people, hoping that it will be powerful, but fearing its terrifying power. Let the captain and the others return as soon as possible, and let the various sub-bases operate at full capacity. Be sure to lock the location of the contained object as soon as it arrives, and respond as soon as possible. After issuing the highest order, Nick Fury turned and walked towards the higher secret room. The situation is getting more and more chaotic. The power of SHIELD is no longer enough to cope with the sudden changes in the world. He needs new power. The things there can help him gain a part of power to join. The countdown to the exposure of the third container, 0 hours and 59 minutes. Time flies so fast. Putting away the steel battle suit, Tony, who had just returned home not long ago, turned dark. He also wants to open a champagne bath. Result. The countdown on the screen is coming to an end. This speed, absolutely nothing. The anti-peanut armor has just made a draft, and the specific design ideas have not been sorted out. In the end, a new containment object appeared again. Who can stand it? I hope it is a panacea-like item, so that such weird creatures will not appear again. Tony's mouth twitched slightly. He was really powerless to deal with such unreasonable things. Supreme Mage, the screen is about to be refreshed. Back to Modu in Kamar Taj, I looked up and saw the countdown to the end of the sky. New containment. Ancient One frowned, his face was not very good looking. Supreme Mage, what will be the next contained object? Is it a horrible creature that will bring disaster, or the same rare treasure as the first time? Where will it descend? Kamar Taja's apprentice, Mage, all looked expectantly at Ancient One. We all know. The Supreme Mage who controls the Eye of Agamotto has the power to spy on time. If you can lock the quality of the next contained object, and then lay down in an ambush in advance, then you will make a lot of money. In the eyes of everyone's anticipation, Ancient One shook his head. I can't spy. Whether it's the location, or good or bad, the future of the contained objects is all blank, as if some kind of terrifying power has erased this part of existence from the long river of time. If she forcibly watches, it may even provoke the counterattack of those terrifying things, even she is powerless to resist. Let time bear witness. Ancient One whispered softly, and slowly put on the hood behind him, shrouded in shadows. The extension of the dragon-shaped pupil membrane in the fundus is more complex. Gotham City. Get rid of one. Wearing a bat battle suit, Wayne has just taken down a villain trying to disrupt order. He took out his mobile phone and dialed, and asked someone to come and take him into custody. The screen goes off, and the clock in the corner keeps ticking, making it impossible to ignore. A new containment coming. Bruce frowned slightly, with a solemn expression on his face. He had tested this sudden thing countless times, and any known means could not affect it. The opponent's hacking technology is like a ghost walking in the network, which is completely ahead of the times. It simply shouldn't be the level it should be in this era. Regarding the screen across the sky, I also asked my friend Superman to test it, but the result is that it cannot be affected. With Superman's unimaginable strength, he can't affect half of it, as if they are not in the same dimension. It is definitely not the so-called holographic projection technology, but some kind of concept beyond imagination. If this power is present in Gotham City. Bruce's face was low and his eyes were very serious, trying to find a solution. If a similar weird containment is replaced by him, what measures should be taken to deal with it? It is not difficult to suppress the horror doll for a short time. But once and for all, how to do it? What else is hidden under the mist of the iceberg, what kind of power it will have, and how to solve it? Thousands of thoughts entangled in his mind. Far more interesting than a few supervillains here and there. Calm down to think of a solution. With his head down, Bruce crossed the sky like a bat under the cover of night. Open black lens bracket ding. Time to 0. Close black lens bracket. Exposure. The third containment item SCP-008. Pre-on. Close black lens bracket. As the light curtain lights up, a ribbon diagram of a complex tertiary structure emerges from the rotating screen. All kinds of colors are like thin threads of entangled constantly ribbons, intertwined into strings. Just a glance. It just makes people feel dizzy. The amount of information loaded is too large, and there is an indescribable nausea. It is the feeling of being shocked by knowledge. Then, what is that thing? Hiss. The scalp is so itchy, I'm going to grow my brain. Fart. You didn't wash your hair. I don't understand at all. Is there any medical professional to explain? Didn't it expose the contents? How did it become a virus? From the moment the picture appeared on the screen, countless information flooded into the internet instantly. Excessive loading directly causes the internet to crash and disconnect. Virus. Could it be that the contained object this time is some kind of virus creature? Tony frowned. The word prions gave him a bad feeling. He is not only proficient in battlesuit manufacturing, but also has a top IQ. Even in medicine and pathology, he also has extremely high attainments. The complicated 3-level color band map, what others see is just dizziness, but in his eyes it is endless danger. JARVIS. Before Tony could summon the AI assistant to start analyzing the virus sequence spectrum. On the screen, new content has appeared again. While the structure diagram of SCP-008 was turning, deep voices and words appeared one after another. As an attached description, SCP-008 is a complex prion. Object class, Euclid. Open black lens bracket contagious 100% close black lens bracket. Lethal 100%. Open black lens bracket transmitted through the exposed mucous membranes and all body fluids of the infected person, but not in the air and water, close black lens bracket. The picture is stretched. Simple structure diagrams are scaled to a corner. SCP-008 disappeared, and when the screen turned on again, countless figures with pale green skin appeared in the center, like walking corpses. The eyes are dull, body sluggish. Roar. Lost his mind, like the beast. Instinctively biting and eating the surrounding creatures, the terrifying virus began to spread through saliva. In less than a blink of an eye, the original number of patients has expanded to millions, and it is still expanding to the periphery at an exponential rate, with an unstoppable momentum. The terrifying quantity made people feel tense. What the hell is this? Prions. This is obviously a zombie virus. What joke are you looking at, a 100% zombie virus? No, I'm going to the underground shelter. Brother, take me a. Quote. The internet, which was still watching the excitement, exploded in an instant when the contained objects actually arrived. SCP-008 Prion. Not many people have heard of this relatively uncommon name, but to most people, the zombie virus is like a thunderbolt. Once it gets out of control, it will be the end of the world. For this power, human whimsy has never failed. And the theme that matches the zombie virus. Basically, doomsday. Doomsday. Netizens who were still blowing water just now had their eyes popped in shock. This is a zombie virus. If it wasn't for the fact that the exposed content said that it would not be transmitted through air and water, 99% of people would rush to buy it first. Source of water. Many people made up their minds to squat in the closed space and wait for the situation to be resolved before climbing out. For a while, prices are soaring everywhere, especially food-related. Prions. Zombie viruses. It really is this thing. Tony slammed his fist on the table. The text on the screen is extremely dazzling. The infection rate is 100%. The fatality rate is 100%. Once this power gets out of control, the Earth will definitely encounter unimaginable and unprecedented catastrophe. For human beings, it is no less than nuclear weapons out of control. In various doomsday disaster films, there have been countless descriptions of this highly contagious and lethal virus. There is no need to say anything about its horror. No. Must find this place ASAP. Tony activated the highest authorization for JARVIS, and compared the streets that fit the picture through big data. Military. How could such a thing exist? And, in this style, the place where the containment landed this time is the Empire again. The top military officials were almost in tears. Those politicians with big bellies can't do anything, except they are full of nonsense and flirting with women, and they have to wipe their asses by the military, and now even the zombie virus has been thrown out. The location of the arrival is in the Empire, and it looks like a very prosperous street. If it is not well controlled, even the stability of the regime may be shifted, which instantly makes countless elites feel anxious. You can question the badness of the eagle sauce, but you must not laugh at the stupidity of the eagle sauce. At the first moment of the screen broadcast, the military made up its mind to prevent the spread of the virus at all costs. Imperial Prison. General Ross, you can get out of prison. The position is business as usual, and has the right to call the army to execute it. An officer with epaulets opened the cell door for interrogation. Handed the folder to Ross. Is it a zombie virus? Ross flipped through the appointment letter casually, and knew it in his heart. Attitude of the military. It can be seen from the reactivation of his radical. In the first incident, he was a lunatic who wanted to overdraw the sub-nuclear bomb. May I bear the name of killing? Ross curled his lips in disdain, and saw through the tricks of the high-level military at a glance. Is the location locked? Yes, General. According to the comparison, the outbreak point of SCP-008 should be New York, Queens. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.